What's going on, guys? Cody here. Today I want to do a little video for you about cleaning baitcaster reel. I tell a lot of people, yeah, in the winter, off season, in between tournaments, I take all my reels and clean them, get all the gunk and everything out of them. And people are like, man, would you mind doing mine for me? And people are nervous about it. They don't want to get in there. They don't want to have any springs go flying. Don't want to mess anything up. So I thought I'd do a quick video and just kind of give you the basic rundown of what you need to be cleaning, oiling, greasing, and kind of the things to keep up with. What we're going to be cleaning is a Lew's Tournament MB, the 7.5, really sweet reel. Just a few things before we get started that you need. I use the Ardent Reel Cleaning Kit. It actually comes in a cool little pack like this. It has literally everything you need. Has reel butter. This is your grease. Has reel butter, reel oil. This is going to go on your bearings. Actually comes with some solvent, some cleaner. It does a really good job of getting all the grime and everything off the actual body and casing of the reel. Then I like to have just some basic pliers. There's a nut right here you're going to have to get off. Simple old rag, paper towel, anything. The Ardent kit comes with a toothbrush. I'll show you what we're going to use that for. You'll need a screwdriver. That one comes in it, I believe, but I like to get some little jeweler's screwdrivers too. There's sometimes some washers and stuff that you need to pop off. And then Q-tips really help to get in some of those tighter spots to get some of the grime off. So, and a bright colored towel. This one just happens to be pink. My wife really loves it when I use the white towels to put all this greasy stuff on. So that's what we got. This is what you need, and we'll get started. You want to start right here on the side of your reel handle. Little screw here. We'll just remove that real quick. And when I'm doing this, you'll see like one of the most important parts. Everybody that goes into clean a reel, they're always nervous about losing something or something popping off or something happen. I just put it, as I take it off, lay it in the order that it comes off, so when you go to put it back together, you just work your way backwards. Real easy. Then you can see this is what we need the pliers for. Right here, little nut. It's not hard to get off, but you can't do it with your bare hands by any means. Break that loose real quick. Right there. You go take your reel handle off. Now on the back of this, be careful. A lot of times there's a little washer right there, and there's grease and gunk gets built up and it'll stick on there, and I have lost those before if you're not careful. So lay that down there and just, like I said, keep your order going. And then this just comes off. And the first time you're doing this, be careful. I like to keep the reel kind of pointed down so that the gravity is going to keep all that stuff on the spool there. It just comes right off. And like I said, just with the reel handle, you always want to make sure there's no extra washers or anything in there that you're going to lose. There's a little cluster. I don't know if you can see them right here, but there's a little cluster of washers right in there. And you can already see how much gunk and nastiness is on that. Just take them off one at a time. And after you do this several times, you'll get to where keeping them all in order isn't such a big deal. You'll know where everything goes together. I throw all Lew's stuff, and so all of their stuff goes together exactly the same for the most part. I mean, they're real easy. After you get that off, unscrew this. There's nothing in that. Your spool just comes through right there. That's what puts that tension on the spool to keep you from backlashing. After that, you see, you always hear about Lew's. They have the quick lube port right there, but you got to remove this screw to get that side plate off there. And sometimes I tell people, if you do have the Lew's, it's not like you're going to ruin anything, but as you're pushing that through, get a hold of that lube port and start kind of pushing it off, because if you pull the screw all the way through, then you have to get that jeweler's screwdriver. Get it right there. Then you have to get that jeweler's screwdriver to pop it out. Not a big deal if you do. It's a little inconvenience. Then you got 3 more you can see around here. Got to pop those out real quick. Maybe. This is where the small ones come in handy. Well, I thought that thing's in there. Okay, that's coming. It's always when you're trying to make a video or show somebody, when you're acting like you really know what you're doing, that you have issues. And something I like to do when I'm laying these screws out is just kind of imagine the reel laying down here on the mat or whatever you happen to be using. And I just kind of put them in their respective places. So, you know, top right, and the next one will go kind of down here. And like I said, once you do a few of them, you'll really get to know where everything goes without really needing to lay them out like this. But the first time you do it, it's really the easiest way to teach yourself. Get all these screws out. Okay, now that we have all those out, you gotta take this other side plate off. Most reels, they just simply pop right off. This one's a little tight. Oh, you pull this right here on the side, this little release. Some of them have a screw, some of them have a release. On some of like the Quantums, you'll actually have a button. I actually have a Quantum right here. You can see there's a release right there. You just pop that. It'll twist one way or the other. Set that aside. Then you're ready to pull your spool out. Pops right out like that. Super easy. Okay, now that we have the spool off, this whole side plate right here is going to be loose. You can see it. This is where it gets important. This is what people are worried about. All your gears and everything are sitting down here on this shaft. So make sure it's sitting, like I said, so gravity will hold it. And just real gently. It shouldn't take a lot of force to come off. So if you're really having to pry on it, something's wrong. I mean, make sure you have all your screws out. You're just going to take that off and set it over here to the side. Alright, this is what you have. Like I said, everybody gets nervous about it. There's really not a whole lot in here. You have a main gear, you have 2 springs. I mean, there's really not a lot. After you get down to this point, just want to slide this gear off here real easily. And you can see on the bottom, you're going to have this little star. I call it a star gear. I don't know what it really is, but it's what that does is it re-engages your reel. So you hit the button, you go click it over. That's actually catching another part on here and moving it over. So I just like to set that down all in one piece. Be careful because there's actually drag washers and some other gears you don't want to fall apart. Take these 2 springs off that I showed you earlier. They're coming off these 2 posts right there. Once those springs come off, you can take that little gear and that whole plastic piece together all out. And this right here, this is why I like cleaning my reels. See all that grease in there, all over this gear. You don't need all that. When you have that much lube, it attracts dirt and just grime and just really clogs your reels up. I don't like it. Right, this is where I said you need some Q-tips. This is where your Q-tips are really going to come in handy. I said you can see all that grease packed in there. I just go around it. You can see how nasty that is. This is a brand new reel. Lubes does a good job of lubing it up for people. I think the reason manufacturers put so much lube on all their reels, because every reel manufacturer, every different brand of reel I've had has had a ton of lube on it like this, and all I can guess is they don't think people are gonna take the time to maintain their reels, so they figure they'll pack it in there. But anyways, you can see take Q-tip, comes right out, real easy. Then move on to this gear, just go around the edge. We might take some of this solvent, spray on it. You can work the Q-tip down in that gear right there. Get all that stuff out, work it around. I'll dry it off. And as you clean the stuff, just kind of set them off to the side here. You can take, this is your other side plate with your adjustments, your brakes. I like to go inside this spool, give that a quick clean. You can see all the grease and grime that came out of there. And then inside the other side with the shaft where all the gears just came out of, you can see there's just a ton of grease and just grime and nastiness. I just like to give it a quick wipe down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I like to just wipe down all the excessive grease I can see on there. Would it hurt anything if you left it? Probably not. But it matters to me. Okay, so we got that cleared off. We have everything ready to go back on. We do have the drag washers in the main gear, but we're going to clean that as we put it back on there. Okay, so what I like to do, you have this little plastic gear. You can see right here, little plastic gear. So you're going to take your reel butter, which is, like I said, it's your grease, and I just put just a tiny drop. It's going to be hard to see because everything's yellow and that gear is yellow, but just a little bit. It doesn't really take much. And I like set that right there. You're ready to go. Remember this little piece? This is the piece that went on first that had the 2 springs on top of it. Take your grease one more time. Try to make it where you all can see it. I just put a tiny little bit. It isn't like some high-speed transmission. You don't have to have a ton, just a little bit. I'll put some, you can see it, I put some right there, and I put some on the top. Where that's going to go, you have these 2 posts, and this, every single bait casting reel is exactly the same. You have 2 posts here. It's going to slide right down on that, just like that. Now, if it won't go all the way down on there, your reel's disengaged. You just need to take this little lever right here and just pop it back up, and it'll fit back on. So don't freak out if that's the case. Now, you remember this little gear, this was sitting on top of that little plastic piece. I like to take, you can see there's like a little channel in it, and I just put just a little bit. See it right there. That's all you need. And now when you go back in with it, the fat end is going to set down in there. This is where the spool's actually going to come through. And that's how it goes. You can see it. Sets right in that little groove. And now you're ready for your 2 springs. These little bitty springs are going to go right here on this post. Just like that. Whoa. Stuck the grease on my fingers. Okay, just like that. Set it back down. Now we're ready to move on to the main gear, drag washers, star gear, all that stuff. Take it off. Flip it over backwards, so you're ready to work backwards like we're talking about how you lay everything out here. Take it. Sometimes, if it's real bad, I'll take it and spray it down with that solvent, the ardent kit. A lot of times I just wipe them off though. And this is the part that I've watched a lot of videos on YouTube about people cleaning reels, and some people do this, some people don't. A lot of people just leave their drag and they just lube the outside of it and call it good. But to me, if you're in a tournament, or even if you're just fighting, it could be the fish of a lifetime. The most important part of the reel is your drag. Your drag sticks or slips at the wrong time, you're giving up a fish. So this to me is the most important part. So you're going to take this little star gear. I don't know if that's the right name. That's what I've always called it. And on the outside of it, because you're actually going to have a washer right here, just take a little bit of that grease. You can see I just have a tiny little bit. Take your finger and run it around there. Now, when you put this back on, you can see this little piece right here, that's what the edge of this has to catch. You can see how it has the little grooves in it. The edge of this has to catch it. So it's important that it goes on with the teeth facing this way. And you'll know if you don't do it right, because you'll get it all back together and go to reel, and it'll just click. It'll disengage like normal, but it won't re-engage. So you have your grease on there, have that fitting, and here's a little washer. It's actually on the back side of your main gear. You don't need to put any grease on this. I only put grease on the metal surfaces that the washers go in between. I guess it wouldn't hurt if you put on the washer, but you don't need a ton. Some people will put it, you can put the washers in dry, and it'll actually, they say, I've never done it, but they'll say if you put the washers in there without any lube at all, it gives you a few more pounds of drag pressure, but I just don't like the idea of not having any lube on the drag washers. All right, now we're down to the main gear here. That's where all your drag washers are going to sit. And this one, it's a brand new reel, but I'll just for demonstration purposes. A lot of times this main piece I will spray down with that solvent, that ardent solvent. And it comes with a toothbrush. I'll just give it a quick like that on the back. And then in the gears, there's usually a lot of grime built up in the gears. I'll just take and run around it real quick. And you'll know if it needs it. You can look down in the gears, it'll be black. I mean, it'll be nasty. So just run over it real quick. Get all that grime out. Wipe it back down. And now you're ready for some more grease. Now, like I said, you have the star gear here. And you have the washer. And so now we need to grease up the back of this because that dry side of the washer is going to be hitting this. Again, it's just a tiny little bit. You don't need a lot. Run it in a circle with your finger right there. You're good to go. And we're putting the flat backside down on that washer. When you put it down on there, remember we put this gear right there. It's going to sit and it'll mesh up perfectly. You can see that gear spinning. It's going to mesh up perfectly with that. Now that that's sitting down on there, we have all of our drag washers and everything that were sitting in that little, it's in a little bundle that was sitting in that main gear there. So once again, just a little bit of lube. You don't need a lot. And it's important, don't get mixed up and put the oil in there. You have the real butter and then the grease, and then you have the oil. All right, so we get that. And here's what Lew's anyways. Different companies use different drag washers, but Lew's uses these right here. Slip down on there, and they're going to alternate. Literally just the material and then a metal washer material. With these, just wipe them off real quick. Put a little on this side, a little grease on that side. Rub it on it real quick. Slide that down. Got another black drag washer. Another metal one. Kind of see the routine we're getting going here. Every time you come to metal, put a little bit of grease on it. And this one, if you are cleaning a Lew's, some of them do it like the Quantum. They only have one drag washer, but it's a big one. Lew's goes through multiple. They have several of them. And this one, if you ever get confused, the one with the little ears on it, it's the middle. And you can see on that main drag washer, it has some little divots. And you can probably guess where those little divots line up. One more drag washer. Wipe the last one off. Now this last one, you can see, has a little beveled top. That's going up. You don't need to put any grease on that top part, just on the bottom, because that's the only thing that's going to be contacting the actual washer. That's the only place that's going to be slipping on your drag. Line it up. Good. So now we've cleaned everything, lubed it up. We have reinstalled all the drag washers. This is the part. Some people put a ton of grease on this main gear. I've seen people put it on their finger and just all the way around. I don't do that. I just put about that much, you can see, on the gear in 2 or 3 spots around there. I guess you can put it all the way around. I don't think it's necessary. To each his own, I guess. I don't like having that much in there. It'll work its way around as you reel. So, now that we have that, we go back to this cover. And there is a little, in that main crank bearing there, where the main shaft comes through that connects to your reel, you can see there's a little piece that comes out right there. A lot of times it comes out with the bundle all together. You'll notice when you look in it, there's one side that's square, kind of oval, that fits on the shaft, and the other side is round. In case you pull that out, it doesn't really matter, but the round end that's not fitted to the shaft goes in first. And in here you're going to have 2 bearings. You have your main bearing that's for your that goes on the shaft, crank bearing. I don't know what you want to call it, but and then you have another bearing that goes on your brake. To clean that, I just take a Q-tip, because that, I mean, all the rain, all the nastiness, that's where all that builds up. Just take it around there. These main bearings, or the brake bearings, I don't mess with those, even though they're sealed. I don't like screwing around with them a whole lot unless they just look real nasty. I just don't want to introduce any dirt or anything like that into them. After you get that clean, Now we're gonna move on because now we're dealing with bearings. You do not want to, this stuff, no, that's out. You don't want to mess with any grease with any of the bearings. It'll just slow your reel down, and y'all be mad at me for destroying the reel. So we're gonna move on to the reel oil. And this is something I see people and they get done with the reel and it's horrible. There's just oil dripping everywhere, and you don't need that. Just take it. I doubt you're gonna be able to see this, but you're just essentially gonna let one drop like that right there. One drop out on that. Same out here. One drop. One drop. That's good. Don't overdo it. You don't need any more than that. Clean this little sleeve off here, and that's going to be contacting the inside of that bearing, so I don't worry about putting anything on it because, like I said, it's going to be contacting that. So after we've done that, you're ready to put this back on the side. Just line it up. There's a hole right there where that post lines up. Shaft will come right through there. Then you're going to take, like I said, you have this little sleeve. I don't know if you can see that where it's fitted, and that end's round. The unfitted end goes in first, and you may have to work it around a little bit to get it, but it'll go on there. You see, slid down in there, and that just keeps the slack out of that main shaft right there. Now we have our spool. We're ready to go back in with the spool from the other side. You can see there's one bearing. Some, I think Quantums and Shimano, I don't think they have a bearing on the shaft. I think it's built into the other side. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've cleaned one. Either way, just look for all your bearings. You can see a little post holding it on there. Once again, just one little drop and you're good to go. So what we're gonna do, super simple. See, slides on, good to go. Set this right here. One more bearing in your side plate where your other brake is. One drop. And this just slides right on over there. Slides down. If that happens, all that happens is the spool was coming all the way through and keeping that other side plate from coming down. If you do run into that, just make sure, like this spring happened to pull off where it was hitting on the reel or on the casing. Just make sure everything's still in place. Make sure everything lines up good. Little sleeve fell out. Remember, goes down like that. The round end, the unfitted part, going in first. And you can, like this one, it's kind of being a booger, so I'll take one of the screws and go ahead and run a screw or two on this side because you're done with the internals of it. That way that spool isn't pushing all the way through. Just make it a little bit easier. And this is something, cleaning a reel while putting these screws in, you know, some people do it every year. Some people do it occasionally, just when the reel gets real bad. No pun intended. I do them every year. Something's not lining up here. And like I said before, if you have any issues like this right now, something's not lining up in there, it's not a big deal at all. Just don't force anything. Don't start pushing on it real hard. You know, these components are nothing. It's just super, super strong. Oh, I'll see what we got going on. So when we put the star gear in down here, you can't see it, but it has a little sleeve, and it just didn't slide down on there far enough. Not a big deal. Don't have to worry about all this. Just make sure you're going washer, then material washer. Make sure your ears line up on those detents again. Make sure your springs are lined back up. Everything's kosher there. Okay. Now, sleeve slides down in there one more time. Sorry about that. Like I said, if that does happen, don't panic. Just take it back apart. It's always something real easy. Okay, now we're ready for the spool. Like I said, slides in there, real easy. Side plate, pop on there. We have to pull this back depending on the reel. You're good to go there. Now we're ready to turn it back over. Start putting your screws back in here. It's a lot easier to put your screws in now versus later, because later, I mean, you can still do it, but the reel handle is going to be in your way. Got one screw in, put our last one up here. That's the one that's kind of a tight squeeze. Okay, so we got those in. We're done with this, so you can go ahead and put that brake cap on there. And it just screws on there, obviously. Now, we have several different washers here. I don't know if you can see them or not, but several washers. None of these really need lube on them. Just make sure you go in the right order, but you know, like I said, we laid them out. You're just going in reverse order of what you laid them down there. They just lay down right on top of that sleeve that went in that bearing. You just start popping these down on there. I wipe them off because they have so much gunk on them from this past year. That's another little gear here, or a little washer. And it slides down on there. Now you're ready for your drag knob. And on this, it's just going to screw on there, but do be careful. You can cross thread it pretty bad. You can see I actually just cross threaded it. I have seen people just torque on it real hard and ruin it. And something, they can be kind of a pain to get on. Just hold your finger on the spool and right there on the worm gear to keep it from moving it, because you don't have any drag on the system until you push all that down on that washer. Crank that down a little bit. You have one more washer. Remember the one that was behind the handle. Slides down on there. There's not a certain way or anything. Wipe that off if you want to. I do, just cleaning it, might as well. Reel handle slides down on there. It'll only go one way. Now you're ready for this little nut that'll hold it on there. And this, like I said, be careful about cross threading. I have cross threaded these before, and you can ruin it quickly. Just gonna take your pliers, tighten this down. And you have to look the way that fits. Most of the time, you need one of the points of the nut to be facing that hole. You'll know pretty quickly if you don't have it lined up, because when you put this on here, that cap, the way it fits, you can see there's a hole on the back. It's going to fit that nut, and it should fit. Oh, it did pretty good. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a hole lines up, and you just have one more little screw right here. Fall in that hole. Need a magnetic screwdriver. Kind of tired of cleaning reels. I've been cleaning reels for 2 weeks now, trying to get ready for this coming season. All right, so we got that on there. We do have the little quick lube port to put back on. It just simply slips in there. It'll only go one way. You can't mess that up. Have it. Alright, so you have a cleaned, lubed up reel now. Like I said, this was a new one. You don't have to, there's really no grime around the outside of it, so I don't take too much time to clean all that up. You know, you can, I like to, after I clean one, I like to hold my thumb on the spool, make sure that it has good drag, make sure I can loosen it, you know, the drag up, and it actually work. If the drag's working, you ought to be able to do that like that. Oh, one more thing. The last thing that I do, the worm gear. This is your worm gear in here. It's what makes the thing go, you know, your spool lay evenly, the line lay evenly on your spool. Keeps it going back and forth as you reel. That a lot of times has grease on it. I don't like grease on that. It is a little more maintenance, but I like to put oil on it. That's what I do to clean it, is just tear off a piece of napkin, just like that. Don't use Q-tip. That cotton will get wrapped up in it. And I just put it in here and hold light pressure against that worm gear as I reel it, and it'll come across and pinch your finger a little bit. Move it on over to the other side. See, you moved it to the other side there. And I'm just holding that on that worm gear as I reel it, and it'll clean it up. You know, clean it up pretty good. And then, like I said, it comes with grease on it. I don't like grease. I'm sure somebody's gonna watch this video and say, "Oh no, you're not supposed to put oil on it." But I would much rather have oil on that worm gear. And then you just take it, and this is a spot where you can put more than one drop. I'll put a little bit on there, reel it, and you're good to go. You know, like I said, make sure it's functioning. If for some reason you're doing that right there and it's just clicking on engage, go back to that star gear at the bottom of that main shaft right there, and I guarantee you have it in there in reverse. Besides that, that's really it. You know, like I said, I do this every year to clean my reels. It just helps me be more confident in my equipment because I know everything's working perfectly. So check it out. Like I said, if you watch this video, I know it took a long time, but watch it, you know, pause it, whatever you need to do. Almost all the reels are identical. There might be a little difference in the drag washers and what they do there, but almost all of them are going to work very similar to this. If you just take them apart, take your time, don't force anything, and the big thing is lay out all of the parts that you take off, lay them out, and just work in reverse order. You should be good to go. If any of you do have any questions, just shoot me a message or a comment, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching, guys.